Tarps can be a great way to camp. They're versatile, packable, lightweight, and a lot of fun. In this video, I'm going to show you a few of my favorite setups to use when I'm out backpacking, through hiking, or camping, and using a tarp setup. Hey everyone, Knowledge here with Reach Your Summit. Tarps are one of my absolute favorite shelter systems to use when backpacking and through hiking. I've used them on the Appalachian Trail, the New England Trail, the Long Trail, the North Country Trail, and a whole bunch of other different trails. What I love about tarps is the deeper connection that they provide in the outdoors when you're out camping. There are hundreds of ways that you can set up a tarp. Ingenuity helps out a lot. Also knowing some basic knots. And with that versatility and adaptability, I'm able to adjust to the varying conditions that I might come across when I'm out on a through hike or a backpacking trip. I can have a system that gives me really good wind or rain protection. I can also configure my tarp to give me the most amount of room to have livable space under and still stay protected. There aren't many tent systems that come close to the weight of a tarp, and there are a lot of great tarps out there that are very reasonable in cost, which price point helps make them very attractive as well. So a few different knots that I like to use with my tarp system are the bowline knot, the clove hitch, and also the figure 8 on occasion. And a few tips for success when using a tarp. The first is practice, practice, practice. I'll practice at home, whether I'm out in a backyard. If I don't have a yard out in the back, I can practice on my deck. I can practice in my apartment. But practice is key. Practicing the knots, practicing the different setups. You don't want to be out on the trail for the first time setting up a tarp and then end up in a really bad situation. Another thing is planning ahead and preparing. Part of the leave no trace principles. By doing that, getting some research in before I head out on the trail, I'm able to know how I can adapt, what different tarp configurations I might want to consider before I even head out on the trail. And then as it's getting later in the day, I'll observe my surroundings, look for trees, look for natural wind blocks. That will help with my setup and giving me a 5-star campsite each night. Just like with a hammock system, I will look for widow makers before I set up my tarp. Another thing I'll look around for are drainage areas. I don't want to be near bugs. I don't want to be near water. As nice as the water might be for a view, I want to be away from that. That's also going to suck away some of the heat and make the camp area near that water a little bit cooler at night, especially if there's a runoff and I'm at a lower elevation. And lastly, safety over scenery. It might be really nice having a beautiful mountain view right from your tarp, but if you're in an open valley, that is not going to be safe. You're more at risk with wind, storms, damage. Also, you can lose a lot of warmth. So I'll look for areas that have really good tree cover or giant boulders, anything to help trap the heat a little bit, act as a really good wind block, and just give me really good protection overall. This is going to help me sleep comfortably and feel well rested and refreshed the next morning. Now, even though I've used tarps like this on varying trails, including a lot in the Northeast, it might not be for everyone, and sometimes a tent does make more sense than using a tarp. But if I still want to use a tarp as my backpacking shelter, I can also pair it with a bivvy, which I have done on multiple trips as well. You still have the versatility. The weight is still a little less than the lightest tents out there, but not by much. The one drawback to using a tarp and bivvy is that you're really closed in compared to sitting inside of a more spacious tent. So if bug pressure is high, humidity is high, and you prefer using a tent, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're out enjoying yourself, that's all that matters. Now, this is your typical A-frame shelter. This is one of the most popular setups, so you'll see it around often. The tarp that I have here is a rectangular tarp. I have several tarps, but out of all of the tarps that I own, this is one of my favorites. This is the Z-Pax 7-foot by 9-foot rectangular tarp. I also really like the 8.5-foot by 8.5-foot Hyperlight mountain gear tarp. Both of those tarps are Dyneema. You can get sil nylon or nylon tarps. There are a lot of great options out there. Along with rectangular tarp and the square tarps, you can also find catenary cut tarps. And those kind of taper down at one end, and there's only one way to set up those tarps, and that's going to be just like this with the A-frame style. What's great about this setup is I can lay down right in the middle of the tarp, and I have a generous amount of protection from wind and from rain. I also get a good airflow, so I can feel very comfortable on hot and humid nights. Now, if there's going to be really strong storms coming in and I want a little bit more protection, I can either lower the tarp a little bit more, which in this case, I would take this line and slide it down with my clove hitch, or the other way that I can do it is by lowering just one end. Now this setup will give me really good wind protection and also a little bit more coverage from the rain. I just simply pulled the guy line all the way in, staked it out right at the very end of the tarp itself, right where the pullouts are, or if you have loops on your tarp, you want to do it right at the corner of the fabric. And then I have the other end open, so I'm still getting good airflow. I can view the surroundings around me and enjoy nature's show, all from the comfort of my tarp. This is another way that I could set the tarp up. This is one of my favorite configurations. This is the Flying Diamond. What's nice about this one is I still get a generous amount of protection. It's angled from one corner to the other in a diamond shape. So if you're a taller hiker, you can definitely have a little bit more coverage. Stick your feet down in the corner there, put your gear in the corner, and have a lot of coverage over your head. If you needed to, you can always take the sides and stake them down a little bit more in storm mode if it gets really windy or rainy. But this is one of my favorite setups. And this is also a variation of the half pyramid, which I'll show you how to set that one up now. So this is the half pyramid, and this gives me a lot of room inside. It's going to feel very similar to a tent. I have 3 walls and 1 opening. A lot of the other tarp setups that I showed you have more than just 1 opening. And I can pull the sides down even more if I want optimal protection, or I can raise them up kind of like I have them right now if I want to get a little bit more airflow underneath the tarp. I can also stake these ends out a little bit more if I need a little bit more room to move around underneath the half pyramid. And I also have the back here, which I can stake out as well. All right, and then 2 more setups that I'm going to show you. I can set my tarp up this way. This is the horizontal way, or 9 foot long. And what I would want to do with this setup is lay down all the way in the very back, closest to where the tarp is hitting the ground. What's nice about this setup is it gives me good coverage in the back. It's going to give me the most amount of airflow, the deepest connection to the outdoors. I would only use this mostly in mild conditions when I want to have a good amount of airflow. Going to be kind of half open on each side. Right now I have it tied off to a tree and also my trekking pole. So you can use natural anchors with a lot of these setups too. This gives me a lot of room to handle tasks, read a book, sit and enjoy the scenery around me. So I would lay down like this, and I have a great view of all that's around me. And my last setup is going to be the vertical setup. This is going to be 7 foot wide with a 9 foot for the length instead of what the horizontal had, which was the 9 foot wide by the 7 foot long. This is another great setup, but it's not ideal in rainy conditions or when winds are really blowing. I have a lot more exposure on either side, which does give me that deeper connection, but it might not be something that I want in really inclement weather. I can reduce that a little bit by maybe finding some shrubs or something to provide me with a natural wall or wind block of some sort. This is probably one of the last pitches that I would go to in all but the best conditions. One of the benefits to the last 2 pitches I showed in this video is that they only require 4 stakes, possibly even just 2 if you have 2 trees that are generously separated and that you have enough guy line to tie off to. So there you have it, a bunch of different pitches that I like to use when I'm setting up my ultralight tarp on backpacking trips, through hikes, or even when I'm just out camping. If you liked this video, hit the like button and also consider subscribing to this channel because I'm always adding new content to it, including videos like this one. I hope you found this video helpful and enjoyable. I hope that it inspires you to get out and maybe get you more interested in tarps and using them as shelter systems. And if you do, I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. This is one of my favorite systems to use. If you have any questions about this tarp or my other tarps or these setups or anything, feel free to leave them in a comment below, or you can contact me at reachyoursummit.net. And if you have any setups that you like to use, please leave them in a comment below as well, and let me know where you're using your tarp setups. I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. I greatly appreciate it. I really enjoy putting these videos together for all of you and look forward to sharing a lot more in the future with you. And until the next one, I'll see you on the trail. Oh, and a quick follow-up to my previous video going over the Ultra Olympus 5. This is what I have on for this video and the hike out here today to make this video for all of you. And I wore these guiding over the last few days up in New Hampshire's White Mountains, and they were fantastic. Dry very quickly, great support, very secure, good cushioning, good traction, and just an overall treat on my feet when I am out on really rugged terrain like up there. Ultra Olympus 5, non-waterproof.